I am with Kristie Schilling. I am interviewing her for the Questions of Monona. She will be running for City Council on April 7th. So, how are
Exciting.
you?
Good. Doing good. Nice to see you.
Awesome. Great.
Thank you so much for doing this and for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Definitely.
It's important to vote, but it's also really important to be an informed voter and know what you're voting for. So I really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to do this.
No,
Thanks, Michaela.
I need to know what's going on.
Yes, maybe you'll be a future city council candidate.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Well.
Okay. So, to get into it, what are your 3 favorite aspects of Monona?
Oh yeah, I love a lot of things about Monona. It's I love the small town city, and I actually really struggled with this question because there's so many things I do love about Monona. And I grew up on an island in Lake Huron, so as small town as it gets. So I love that small town feel. But I was able to narrow it down to 3 things, and I have to live near water. So, I grew up on an island, Lake Huron. I have to be near water. So that I love, no matter where you go in the city, you're close to the water. Our parks and green spaces are fantastic, and I just love them. And I love being outside, and so I think to live in a small city like this that has such an amazing network of parks is really incredible. Yeah. And then the big trees. I love the big trees of Monona and all the things they bring with them. Like right now I'm hearing the great horned owls because they're in their prime time for mating season. And at dusk I hear them hooting and all night long. So I really like that. And we're here in my home. And so we're 1 block off Monona Drive. And I've had bald eagles in my trees. That's amazing. So
Monona is really nice to have that. We have a privilege of having the nature around us, yet being so close to a city like Madison.
Yes, it's the best of both worlds. It really is. Yeah.
Okay. What experiences or accomplishments have you had that is relevant for running for city council?
Yeah, I think I probably have a little luxury in this, is that I've was the executive director of the Monona Eastside Business Alliance for 5 years, and so that's really made me learn a lot about the community and helped me develop a lot of relationships with people, but also like all the different organizations that operate here within the city, like the farmers market and the school district and the large events and festivals and I would say probably even beyond that, my relationship with, say, the county. I've got a strong relationship there. With the city of Madison, we do have to talk with our neighbors and look for opportunities for shared resources. And then even the state, I'm often in touch with the DOT, talking about what changes coming to the Beltline. And so I think it's my connectedness to the community.
You have a great sense of networking.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really important.
It
when
is.
You need to get different resources to connect with different.
Have connections and communication available. Yeah.
Okay, do you think Monona Drive is healthy and successful? If not, why?
Okay. I think there's some pockets of Monona Drive that are just doing great. Number one, I will say I give huge props to our retailers, especially I think of the south end of Monona Drive, like Cozy Home, Rutabaga. Oh, amazing! A lot of my stuff in my house is from Cozy Home. Booth 121, also phenomenal. Reptile Rapture. We have some really just interesting businesses that bring people in, and in this era of online shopping, they're killing it and they're doing a great job. So those, I love seeing those. That end of Monona Drive, though, you see these large buildings with large parking areas, so it's not as high density. So I live up here on the north end of Monona, and we're kind of by Rossi's Pizza. And so then I think of this block here by my house, which is incredibly productive. It's as far as a retail destination. There's a nice variety of businesses there. They're all doing really well. I think it could use a little investment to make it look a little better. But right now, I think they're doing a great job. It's just that I think we could invest a little more just to make it aesthetically pleasing.
Definitely. In regards to that, what concerns do you have with the new downtown?
Yeah, I think I think the number one thing you hear, everyone's talking about parking and a
Yeah.
lack of parking. I think people didn't anticipate Buck and Honey's just being so successful. So congratulations to Tom and his crew there. They're doing great. But I know right now they're designing the last phase of that project.
Okay.
So there's a big vacant parcel there right now.
Okay.
That is, you're going to see I think it's a 5-story building go up there with
Okay.
140 apartments, additional
Okay,
apartments.
cool.
There'll be 2 levels of parking. So I think it's about 124 stalls
Yeah,
coming,
okay.
public parking.
Oh,
so
wow.
so that will be great.
Yeah, definitely.
I think you some of the, that development is a once in a lifetime thing for Monona.
Yeah.
I know people saw me on NBC 15, kind of promoting that, because when in Monona do we see commercial space in the size of 25,000 square feet come available in Monona?
For sure.
Rare moments.
Rare,
And so it's fantastic that we have that opportunity to have new businesses in, and they are also really unique businesses and local, which is great, because I think a lot of us value our eclectic nature and mix of businesses and local businesses, and that's really important that we keep that. So the parking, and then the ice skating rink, I know that's kind of ruffled a lot of feathers. It was a really pricey investment for the city. It's it's going to be a challenge. It's something we have to watch really closely, the numbers.
Okay.
So I think one thing we could look at there, because we have one of the prime retail spaces is dedicated to the concession stand. And so maybe there's opportunities as we watch that, and if we just can't even get it to a break-even point, where we can have that little space be available for pop-up shops. Like in the summer. Maybe even Rutabaga Paddle Sports rents kayaks and paddleboards. Or most of my clothing is used. I buy used clothing, and I love vintage clothing. So I was thinking you could do like a vintage retail clothing store as a pop-up shop. A lot of businesses don't want a lease for 5 years, so having those little pop-up opportunities could be something really interesting to kind of consider there.
That's smart, like thinking outside the box.
Yeah, gotta think outside the box, for sure.
Awesome. And then I noticed that there are a lot of new buildings being created. Do you think, like the downtown, do you think that's gonna negatively affect the Monona Drive
the other local businesses? I actually think it'll be okay.
Okay.
Because it just brings more people to the city, and maybe gives them more reasons to come here if they didn't have it, and then to discover these other businesses.
Cool.
So I feel like there could be some positive synergy there.
Okay.
I think it's okay, and we have a lot of capacity on Monona Drive for traffic.
Yes.
We could build that up a little bit, so I think it's actually probably a good thing.
Okay, awesome. And then what would you personally like to do with the abandoned building of Shopko on Broadway?
Oh, yes. This is one it's been on my mind, because, we know what's happening to the big box stores. They're leaving, they're closing up. There's also that dark store loophole piece, which gets me a little bit, riled up as well. So that property is challenging in that that's an absentee landlord.
Yeah.
And so, the way you can really get creative with a project like that is when you've got the landlord lives in your community, and you have, easy channels for communication with them, and they're willing to be creative with you in how you use that. We do have some limitations there in that the construction of the building, it's not open span. So there are beams throughout it. So we couldn't do like an indoor soccer or indoor tennis courts, unfortunately. But there are a lot of things we could do. There's no doubt about it. There could be a maker space for kids, or even for adults. There's so many things we could do. I feel like any type of destination business would be ideal there, because there's a lot of parking, it's proximate to the interstate, amazing real estate location there right at the Beltline.
Sure.
So any type of destination business. I'm an artist, and so there is a business in Santa Fe, New Mexico that I would love to see in the Madison area. It's called Meow Wolf, and it's kind of a hands-on art experience. It's where 30 artists bought a bowling alley that went out of business, and they created this amazing arts destination. So really, really different, and people come from all over the world to visit
so
it. So
cool.
I think something like that could be really successful there.
And I say kind of like a museum kind of.
It is kind of like a museum, but so one of the differences is, so you go into a room and there's a dryer, clothes dryer. You open the clothes dryer, and it's a slide. You go into it, and then you slide to another area of the museum, and then you're in a spaceship.
Yeah.
So it's really out there, but it's really fun.
That sounds fun.
Yes,
I
it's
want to
really
go
fun.
now.
You do want to go. Everybody should try it out. It's a really cool space.
So another concern in Monona is transportation. How do you feel about the opportunities of transportation that we have? Do you think we need more?
Yes, we do. In short, I'm on the Monona Transit Commission, and I've only been on that since November, so I've learned a lot in the few months I've been there. Our ridership does continue to increase, as younger generations maybe don't want to buy a car or they can't afford to buy a car. We also have a lot of elderly in our community. I think we're close to 40%. And so their transportation options are limited as well. And our bus service runs Monday through Friday, kind of mornings and evenings, and so it's pretty limited. So it's the Monona Transit with two pieces. We have the Monona Lift, which services the seniors or the differently abled population, and then we have the Monona Express, which is like an incredible limousine service that takes you right to UW and then to the hospitals areas. So it's a great service. It's just, I know the businesses, it's a challenge for them to get employees. They would love to have a bus service that's 7 days a week and around the clock. Are we there yet where we could support it? Maybe, I don't know. We had about 5,000 rides happen this year. So, and like I said, that continues to climb. I just think as a city, we need to prioritize it. It's not been a priority right now. So I think if we really start marketing it and letting people know about it, and there is an app that shows you where it's at, so you can see, I got to get to this bus stop. It's on the way, and so it's all there. It just we need more people to know about it. We need to talk about it more and promote it.
Like an acknowledgement.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So.
All right, and then if you could change one thing in our zoning code, what would you do?
I think when I think about our housing, and so this summer I just bought and sold a house, and it is not easy to do in Monona. It's not easy to buy a house in Monona. It's very easy to sell a house in Monona. But so it's a supply-demand issue. We need more supply. And does it all need to be single family? I actually don't think it does. So I would like us to see, really kind of go through with a fine-tooth comb, make sure we've modernized it. We're looking at trends, housing trends of what's happening on the coast, and how can we do something creative here. So there's a cottage courtyards is an idea. It's Troy Gardens on the north side of Madison is a similar example of this, and I think of these as the communities of the future. Not everybody wants a yard all to themselves to maintain, but they like having a green space, and so it's townhomes situated around a courtyard. And so you also get an immediate sense of community in those spaces. It's really cool. And so, if you ever are up on the north side, stop in there and take a look. It's really a neat development. And then also cooperative housing, I think, is another option. So where you become a part owner and you maintain the property, and it would allow young professionals to save some money to buy a home if that's what they wanted to do. So I think we could look at a few different options beyond, say, condos, apartments, and single-family homes.
Cool. And then how would you involve residents in your decision making as a city council member?
I think public engagement is absolutely critical. I think a lot of times it's challenging to work with public engagement because you'll have people maybe speaking against a project and maybe they don't even live in your community, and how do you filter that out and kind of have these weighted responses like, okay, are you directly impacted by this? No. Okay, well then let's hear from people who are directly impacted. And I think one of the ways you could do that, we have the nice luxury of having a small community where I would be willing as a council member to go out to, say, my street is a perfect example. We have high schoolers parking on my street. 3 o'clock every day. It's like a drag race on my street. And so, I would be willing to go out and then, walk with the neighbors in that community and have them tell me where their problems are and, work together on solutions. So I think sometimes, asking people to come to City Hall at a certain meeting at a certain time, it really is challenging. I actually tried to get to a meeting this week, but I couldn't. I had 2 other commitments at that time. And so I think being willing to go out to the people is just a great way to get public engagement.
Yeah, definitely. And then that will make the people feel heard.
I think so.
Well.
Yeah. And like you really care.
Yeah, valuable.
We really have to work on kind of establishing trust from our residents as people that work at the city. And make sure, that they feel like they're being listened to and heard in these decisions.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then if someone were to come up to you with an idea of adding another infrastructure a road or bridge, how would you evaluate it?
Yeah, I think so. Some of those projects, they just they organically, time out. So like asphalt has a life expectancy. So there are times when we have to repair that road, we have to replace it, resurface. So some of those they just bubble to the surface organically. But I think, really we've got to get out of that post-World War II mindset of grow, 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 build, build, build.
Yeah.
We're really good on infrastructure at this point.
So
I just want to see us maintain what we have and really maintain it flawlessly. And then when we can do all of that, then I think it's okay to look at new projects. My primary objective as an alderman would be or alderwoman would be to just to see our city become as financially resilient as we can be, and really just to be thoughtful and work on incremental investments. So, it's kind of one of the tricky spots that we're in as a small city of 8,000 people surrounded by Madison.
Yes.
We want a lot. We have high expectations. And so we feel like, they're building a development over there in Madison. Why can't we do that? Well, because they've got, 350,000 more taxpayers than we do, And so that's something we have to really, we have to just be very thoughtful. And I think incremental investments is the way to go. Yeah,
definitely. And then if you were elected, what 3 steps would you take to put our city on a firmer financial footing?
What 3 steps I would take?
Yeah,
I think, really, I think we could look at, like I said, looking at the really incremental, thoughtful investments as we go. So, looking at small bets that are big wins, like this property up here on Monona Drive that I was talking about, where it's highly successful. I feel like if we just put a little investment in that, we could really see Monona Drive. It would catalyze a movement, and then we'd see more infill development.
Definitely.
We have to be able to draw more businesses to Monona Drive. That's been a really big challenge that I've dealt with in the past 5 years working at the Alliance, and it's. Part of the challenge is, not having bus service and all of those things, but we really just have to be able to find the right developers for these infill developments and that blend really nicely with our community and can maintain this eclectic nature of our business community. I think if we do that and then just really kind of buttoning down our other expenses, like I said, I think if you look at surveys that the citizens have done in the past, our parks, they rank out as excellent. And so I think we could reel back some spending there and just really prioritize what are the investments that positively impact the most people in our community, and then prioritize those. So we'll reel back some spending a little bit, then we can get in a better financial footing, and then maybe we could buy a piece of land, or like get a loan to secure San Damiano, so we could be in control of our own destiny there.
Awesome. And then let's say if you received $1 million and you could do basically anything you wanted for the city, how would you use it?
Where would I go? I would definitely look into multiple pots. I would put it into multiple pots. One would probably be, trying to get a loan for San Damiano if that's possible, or maybe even organizing a group of people that are willing to invest to try to secure that land for the city, or looking at Shopco and the Southtown Mall property. If we could secure a piece of that, that would be great. Then we could maybe be a little more in control of our own destiny. I think, there's also the Dream Park. I've heard talk that, people feel like it's heavily used. I love that park. My kids, we use that so much when my kids were a little younger. We don't go there as much anymore, but it is an amazing little park, and it's incredible. And so I think that's going to need to be rebuilt. And then there's also the Winnequa Park shelter. So a lot of talk about can we make that into a 4-season shelter? That would be a great investment. Really awesome. And then of course I need more than $1 million to work with. There's also the senior center and the community center, which both get so much use. And how can we update those buildings and expand it? It's absolutely. And I know you work with my son at the after school club, and you think about the safety issues too, and anyone can come in there, and so how are we gonna make that compatible with the program you guys are running, which is awesome.
And then overall, what are the 3 things you want to improve in Monona? I think communication is big. I'm hearing on the campaign trail, it sounds like there's some mistrust of the government. And it's really, a lot of that just has to do with, from top to bottom, all levels, right? And so, once again, we have that luxury of being a small community where we should be able to effectively communicate with our 8,000 people here. But communication's a two-way street, So you can keep pumping it out, but people have to be actively listening and seeking it and engaging as well. Definitely.
So I think communication and public engagement is definitely on my mind. Fiscal sustainability. I think about all the decisions we're making today are impacting you, my kids, these next generations. Just like we're now dealing with all the decisions that were made before, And so I feel like we just need to become more fiscally sustainable, because then we can do so much more, and we can be more resilient. And I think that's really important. And then, looking into creative measures for our housing. We just need to go beyond condos and apartments and single family homes. And there's lots of opportunities to do that. I know we have a local developer here who would, love to be involved in that and really thoughtful. And that's kind of when you're a small community, you want people from the inside working in your community because they understand it and they care. So I think those are probably my top 3 opportunities. So.
Well, I want to thank Kristie Schilling for this interview. Do remember to vote on April 7th, and also there will be a debate at the Monona Public Library on March 22nd at 3:30
3:30, I believe,
I would come a little earlier just to get your spot.
Yeah, exactly. That room's not so big, so
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Michaela.